when I first heard the song, Sunday Morning Coming Down, I was already in tears. Really quite incredible. So many of the songs that this guy has written, it's really touched me profoundly. That I needed you, so help me.
Welcome to the Game of Impossible podcast. My name is Leon. This is my dad, Idris Jala. We are a father and son podcast where we discuss all things transformation through the lens of business, leadership, sport, and faith. Today we have a bit of a special episode to commemorate the life and legacy of an artist, a songwriter that we are both particularly fond of. I think maybe you especially, Dad.
Yeah.
But I have certainly grown up with a lot of his music. So, in case you're wondering who it is, we're going to be talking about the late Kris Kristofferson. For those of you who are familiar, you can drop us a comment in the comment section as well. We'd love to know if there are other Kris Kristofferson fans out there. But I think, we were discussing this because obviously I think both of us, especially you, were quite affected upon hearing the news of his passing. And so, you said it would be nice to do a bit of a special episode on Kris Kristofferson. And I think when we were discussing it, we realized that there were a lot of actually tie-ins to the stuff that we talk about here on this podcast.
Absolutely.
In terms of transformational leadership. I mean, he's an artist, but I think in many ways he embodies, if we look at those 6 secrets that we talk about, every single one of them is incredibly evident in the life that he lived, but also in the music that he produced. What did Kris Kristofferson mean to you?
He's a very special man. He's a leader in his own right. He has very profound impact on my life and the way I looked at many things. And also everyone in the family, Uncle Rubin, my sisters, and Osat, and all of us who are very close, we all are really, really big fans. There are millions of people in the world that I know that are impacted by him in particular in his lives and the lyrics that he's written. When he died on the 28th of September, Leon, I really felt sad about it. And I felt like putting a signpost on our door that says, as a sign of respect to Kris Kristofferson, today is cancelled. I just felt like that, It was really quite sad to do that.
Key characteristics or markers of a transformational leader. We always talk about having a very clear true north, and then having a true north that then informs, all the stuff that you do. Based on some of the examples that I can think of, I think he obviously had a huge vision for what he wanted to achieve in life. I asked you before we recorded this because I hadn't done that much research into. I always was more familiar with his music, but maybe not that familiar with his life. And so I remember asking you, Sunday Morning Coming Down, his breakout hit.
Yeah.
I was trying to craft the narrative for this episode, and I was thinking maybe that could be an example of a success that maybe would have come later on in his career. But then you very quickly told me that actually that was his breakout hit was
the first
debut
album.
Time. Debut album.
1970.
So I was interested to think, okay, how was that possible? And so I did a little bit of research.
Right.
And what I thought was interesting was, actually I didn't realize that Johnny Cash was the one to help him record that song and help him to release it. So that's one. But then I was thinking, well, how did he, at such an early stage in his career, get the endorsement of such a big name like Johnny Cash?
Yeah.
And
he was a relative unknown then.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And this is when I found out that what he did was he personally flew a helicopter.
Because he's helicopter pilot.
Yes, and he trained in the military. So he personally flew a helicopter and landed said helicopter on the lawn of Johnny Cash's property.
Correct.
So that he could pass him a demo for him to listen to. And, obviously that paid off. So he had a big impossible goal, I think, of what he wanted to achieve in life. But then within that, he created other impossible, smaller goals, like, how am I going to do this? Well, I think for me to make it big, I'm going to need to get my work in front of one of the biggest stars. how am I going to do that? I'm now also going to set an impossible method for delivering my message. What do you think that we can learn as leaders, whether in business or as artists, to adopt this same kind of thinking in the stuff that we do?
I think the first thing you know about Kris Kristofferson was the idea was his game of impossible was to be the best version of himself in everything that he was doing. He's a very smart man. He was a Rhodes Scholar. He went to Oxford on a Rhodes Scholarship in the year 1958. That was the year I was born, actually. That's when he went out there. And when he was there, he started writing songs as well. His debut album, the one that you talked about before, in that debut album, he won immediately the Grammy Award for Song of the Year in 1970, Sunday Morning Coming Down. And he also got the Grammy Award in the same year for the best country song, Help Me Make It Through the Night. So when you think about it, the guy was doing the best version of himself at the time when he was a songwriter, and he also started to sing, became a singer. He became a poet as well. So his game of impossible, when he was writing songs, you could see the poetry in the song. In fact, he won the Academy Country Music in the year 2013 Poets Award. I mean, he's not actually a poet, but he was using poetry as part of the way which he wrote the songs. And so he won that award. And then he also went through personal transformation. This guy's incredible, best version of himself. He went into acting. And then he collaborated with Barbra Streisand, as you know. The two of them worked in The Star is Born. And that has actually won the Golden Globe Award for Best Actor in a Musical. So, I mean, his game of impossible is always about wanting to be the best version of himself in whatever he did. He really pushed himself to the limits. I think he holds no quarters for what he was trying to do. And that's really a trait of leadership that is so apparent in the life and the songs that this man wrote.
I think, in order to even move towards your impossible goal, the other thing that we talk about is overcoming the fear of failure. And I was just listening to his songs again, and this line, which is a line that I've grown up hearing all the time, it just suddenly had a new profundity for me, which was from his song Me and Bobby McGee, where he says in the chorus, freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose.
Yeah.
And I think that is really, really powerful. When you treat your pursuits as a pursuit towards freedom, actually, and then framing that freedom as essentially being a freedom from the fear of failure, having nothing left to lose. I think he, obviously, by having that attitude, those were the things that were able to drive him towards doing all of these crazy things and crazy endeavors, going suddenly into acting, another sort of career reinvention. It could have gone belly up as well. We've seen many singers, musicians try to go down that route and have failed. But he obviously said, well, freedom for me is nothing left to lose, so never mind. Let's see how that pans out. Any other reflections on this idea of fear of failure?
The fear of failure, I think when you think about it, when he wrote the song called The Pilgrim, I think that song, the lyrics in that song really describe the whole of everything that you can think about Kris Kristofferson. When you think about the lyrics, he said, he's got a very low voice, and I'm just going to do a little bit of...
You've also been practicing your Morgan Freeman voice.
See him wasted on the sidewalk in his jacket and his jeans, wearing yesterday's misfortunes like a smile. Once he had a future full of money, love, and dreams, which he spent like they were going out of style. So when you think about it, the guy said, see him wasted on the sidewalk.
His mum is behind the camera giggling away as well.
In his jacket and his jeans, wearing yesterday's misfortunes like a smile. Then he said, in the chorus, he says, he's a poet, he's a picker, he's a prophet, he's a pusher, he's a pilgrim, and a preacher, and a problem when he's stoned.
He's talking about himself.
Yeah, talking about himself. He's a walking contradiction, partly truth and partly fiction. Then he ends the song with a really iconic line, taking every wrong direction on his lonely way back home. So the guy really thinks about pilgrim, a guy that goes through a journey of life, and a journey of life right until the end of it all. And he's not afraid to take every wrong direction on his really lonely way back home.
Yeah. You know, he also said there's another line. He says, I'd rather be sorry for something that I've done than something that I didn't do.
Yeah.
And I think what a way to live life, and to, I think, be able to embrace uncertainty in things, you know. You've got to be able to be okay with making a couple of bad decisions.
Absolutely.
To arrive at a really good one.
And in the other line, he said it, and he keeps right on changing for the better and the worse, searching for a shrine he's never found. Then he says, never knowing is believing is a blessing or a curse, or if going up is worth its coming down. So when you think about this, it's so philosophical. When you think about a shrine that he's never found, but it's keep on changing for the better, for the worse. So the man is prepared to keep on changing, not knowing whether it's for the best or it's for the worst. But the point is, and he even does not know whether the going up is worth its coming down. So to me, when I think about him, the idea, the epitome of the description of the man is that he regards himself as partly truth and partly fiction. And some of the things that we do in life describes the truth, and some of the things we do is partly fiction. And so he sees a contradiction about himself, falling a man on the edge. Nothing in life, in leadership, if you really want to transform, you have to stand on the edge, where you're totally uncomfortable with yourself, because that's the only way you discover the best version of yourself. You'll never get the best version of yourself if you stand and pursue the path of mediocrity, and if you stand in the circle of being comfortable. You must be completely uncomfortable with the journey that you take. You're prepared to lose. You're prepared to fail, because in the process of failure, you're just going to discover the best version of yourself, backs against the wall.
You mentioned mediocrity, and I think it's worth zeroing in on this one a little bit more, because also I think mediocrity is dependent on context as well. And I think the reason why I want to talk about this is we can say that, okay, looking at Kris Kristofferson's career trajectory, you can say, oh, he's one of those rare cases of an overnight success. And yeah, perhaps you could make an argument for that if you were to only look at his discography.
Yeah.
Within that context, then yeah, you can say, well, he's lucky to have sort of struck gold the first time. But if you look prior to that, in order for him to be in the environment, to be in that kind of in that culture, he knew that his only ticket to get to be with the stars was by taking up a janitor's role, a seemingly mediocre role, but he did that in order to achieve something big. You know, so sometimes mediocrity is not necessarily, it's not necessarily a matter of what your vocation is currently, because everyone's got to start somewhere. But what do you have an idea of a roadmap, to head towards? And if that means taking up a seemingly boring job at first, but with the intention then to surround yourself with really good people, which is exactly what he did, then actually the encouragement is if there's anyone listening to this who feels that you're maybe in a mediocre job, it's not really about the role that you're in, but what are you moving towards? And as long as this role, if you need to do a maybe pretty mundane job, but it's helping you to pay the bills, which will then give you the freedom later on to do other things, or you're doing a job that maybe you don't like, but you're surrounded by really brilliant people, and that's going to be part of your journey towards achieving the impossible, then that's good and commendable as well.
Whereas we said before, if you're clear about your true north, there are many things that are along the way that are stepping stones to achieve your true north. One of the things that's not well known about Kristofferson was when he was 17 years old, he went to work in a dredging company. It was really, really difficult. In fact, he said in his interview, that's the most difficult job that he had ever done in his entire life. And that was a very important thing he did because he was only 17 years old. So that's part of the foundation because he was prepared to take very difficult jobs in a dredging company. That was really hard work for him to do. And every step along the way, I think the thing that really I like about Kristofferson was his true north was to be the best version of himself in whatever he was doing. Even the time he was a janitor in a music company, and he was there simply because he could then access people to give his songs to so many people. And that's his song became popular, made popular by so many people. The song "Help Me Make It Through the Night" has been sung by so many artists in the world.
Do you think that, Kris Kristofferson was, you can say in many regards he was a generalist, right? He did many things. Tried all sorts of things. You mentioned it just now. He was a Rhodes Scholar doing English literature. You would think, okay, maybe would he go into academia? He didn't. He then joined the military, but also then didn't pursue a further career in that. Went into writing music, and then within that explored being in films. A lot of reinvention and trying different things. Some people might have an argument that maybe that isn't the way to go. If you want to achieve the impossible, some people argue that you need to have a focus, identify a focus early on, and then double down on that. What is your personal take on this?
Which is exactly the point I said. He is a guy that did many things. So he went through a real personal transformation because he did so many diverse things in his life. Because his only game of impossible was in whatever he was doing, he wanted to get the best version of himself. As a songwriter, as a singer, as an actor. In fact, I think he won an award for speech as well.
Okay, I didn't know that.
So this guy, really quite incredible. So that's a path that he took. There are other people that says, I want to be a billionaire. And I want to be just focused on Jeff Bezos. He wants to be a billionaire and he wants to be the biggest retailer in the world. Very narrow area, but that's his true north. That's his game of impossible. But this guy is very different. He wanted to be the best version of himself in all the things that he was doing. And that's okay as well. And I think success in life is not always measured by money. It's not always measured by the things that everybody put you on a pedestal. But I think I really like this man because he shows so much humanity in himself and the vulnerability in himself. And when he wrote the song, Why Me? It was really a song that I think your mom and I were in tears when we were listening to that song. Why me, Lord? What have I ever done to deserve? So a lot of the songs about showing his vulnerability and that he needed God to take him out from his despair. So that song was written about the depth of despair that he goes through. But the best part of it, there was redemption in the song because there was hope in the song that God is out there, Jesus is out there, put up a hand to reach out to him. So in leadership, it's always about being self-aware. Being vulnerability. I've said before, vulnerability is a virtue that we must be prepared to look at ourselves and become vulnerable. Only you become vulnerable and you surrender because you are in the depth, then you will ask for help. Whether it's ask for help from God, whether it's ask for help from people around you, because we don't know answers to everything in life. So I do like the fact that the man himself really is prepared to express himself with such a level of vulnerability.
Yeah, which reminds me of one particular song. In our family, we have this term for when something makes us feel a bit emotional. We call it mistake. You feel somewhat mistake. I don't really know how that sort of came about, but it's stuck. It's not even grammatically correct, but it's become our modus operandi here. But it's the song "Here Comes That Rainbow" again.
Oh, man.
That song, if you want to talk about mistake, that one is really
I'm
mistake.
trying to find the lyrics now. Rainbow.
But I think about that song because you mentioned that a lot of the beauty of not just his songwriting, but I think the way that he lived his life also was both an observation in the pursuit of understanding, observing, but also celebrating humankind. And also the good in people, as much as we acknowledge the struggles and the difficulty, which birthed a lot of his songwriting, there was also celebrating the innate good in people as well. And if you want to take a biblical approach, because we are made in God's image, it is only natural that there would be an inherent good. And I think this song perfectly describes it. Do you want to maybe add some color for our audience?
I'm going to read the lyrics, actually. The scene was a small roadside cafe. The waitress was sweeping the floor. 2 truck drivers drinking their coffee, and 2 okay kids by the door. How much are them candies? They asked her. How much have you got? She replied. We've only a penny between us. Them 2 for a penny, she lied. Then the daylight grew heavy with thunder, with the smell of the rain on the wind. And it's just like a human. Here comes a rainbow again. One truck driver called to the waitress as the kids went outside. Them candies and 2 for a penny. So what it's to you, she replied. In silence, they finished their coffee, then got up and nodded goodbye. She called, hey, you left too much money. So what it's to you, they replied. And the daylight was heavy with thunder, with the smell of the rain on the wind. And it's just like a human. Here comes the rainbow again.
And here come the tears again as well. All 3 of us, my mom is also sitting here behind the camera. There's something about this song. Even you don't even need to hear the music. Even just reading it out like that, it does so much. It's such a simple song as well. The songwriting
one of our relatives from the UK, she came here and sat at the kitchen, and we were talking about really nice songs that really touched the heart. And I said to her, I think you should listen to this song, but I think we should go to the living room so I can put it loud, and you just have to sit down there drinking coffee. The mother-in-law.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So we sat down there, and we listened to it. She was just totally in tears.
Why? I wonder why. Why does it produce that in us, this song?
I don't know. I mean, it's just, the story is just incredible. You guys, listeners out there, and I ask you to get a cup of coffee, sit quietly in a corner, listen to this song, just look at the lyrics while Kris Kristofferson sings a song. I can almost guarantee you will be in tears by the time you finish it.
For added effect, while you're having your coffee, maybe have some candies there as well.
Yeah.
By your side. Yeah, what a great song.
Yeah. My brother left very early on when he was Form 6, your Uncle Rubin. He left when he was O-levels. He went to do his O-levels, A-levels in the UK, bachelor and master's degree, and then decided to migrate with his family there. When he came back from Australia, he was the one who introduced me to Kris Kristofferson. And when I first heard the song, Sunday Morning Coming Down, I was already in tears. Really quite incredible. So many of the songs that this guy has written, it's really touched me profoundly.
We are struggling to keep our emotions at bay. I want to talk about struggle because as much as Kris Kristofferson's life was very decorated, a lot of accolades, huge achievements. I think there was also a lot of struggle,
Yeah.
a lot of pain as well, and it was pain that led him to, all sorts of addiction earlier on in his life. But I think that's a good example also of, I suppose another thing we talk about on this podcast is problems to be solved versus polarities to be managed. And I think in life and in the world, there are a lot of things that people will go through which aren't problems to be solved, but polarities to be managed. Yes, so you could argue that maybe in some ways he tried to solve his problem by by turning to drugs and alcohol. But at the same time, I think there's also something to be said about how he used that to inform and to shape a lot of the art that he produced. I think not just music, but I just say art because there were so many expressions of it. But in his case, one of the ways to manage that polarity was by finding an outlet to express it. And in his case, it was in art.
Yeah.
What are some ways that we can find sort of expression for the things that maybe we are struggling with, the polarities that we are managing, or polarities that we observe in the world that we don't have control over?
Yeah. I think the first thing is that we must understand that the world is not at our feet. And that there's some things outside your control and that you really can't fix. And so when you see polarities are things that, for example, in a husband and wife, there's a polarity when one of the partners want to have individual quiet time by themselves without being together. Privacy, individual privacy, wanting to have their own time for themselves. On the other end of the spectrum in that polarity is that togetherness, doing things together. You can't simply say, get rid of one. There's always a need to have that together. There's also a need for the individual space. So that polarity exists. And so in husband and wife, the importance of realizing that to be a polarity is very important. That you, as husband and wife, you must understand, you must give space, individual space for your partner to be able to then spend time alone in solitude to do some of this. But there's also the other, to be able to collaborate and find emotional connect and share the journeys and be together. So the thing is a polarity. You can't get rid of one. And so I think Kris Kristofferson, he wrote many songs about all of this. Even the best of collaboration he had with one of his wives called Rita Coolidge. And they wrote two really incredible songs. I think one was from I can't remember, From the Bottle to the Bottom. And that song, and also another one, Lovers Please. The two that they sang, both of those songs actually won awards. Simply because I think if you look at the lyrics of the songs, it provided an insight into the tensions that the two of them had as a couple, the tension, the polarities that exist inside it. So because it was real for them, it was experienced, and I think it became very apparent in the songs that they wrote. It touched the hearts of people who listened to it. That's why it won awards. Both songs actually won award for singing country music duo awards for the song. So I think the idea of collaborating and understanding what polarity is, being self-aware and finding an outlet to go and do, in this particular case, is about songwriting. But I do encourage people out there, if you are really struggling, finding time to reflect is very, very important. Only when you reflect, only then you realize this is not a problem to be solved, but it's a polarity to be managed. When it's polarity to be managed, the answer is very simple. It's about give and take and compromises, not arguing, not pressing your point of views, not insisting only one solution, but really about giving and take. That's the way. But it comes through a period of reflection. I've said before, wisdom only comes from people who spend time in reflection based on their experience. So wisdom is a function of experience and reflection. So people must have time to reflect. Only when you do it, you then become wise to know that this is a polarity to be managed rather than a problem to be solved.
That's good. And I think another way to kind of look at it, is understanding that even when bad things happen, either to you or you're observing bad things happening around you, those can be used as a catalyst to do something good. Not necessarily to solve a problem, although sometimes that is possible, but it could actually put you in a better position to help not only yourself, but ultimately helps other people to manage said polarity. There's in the Bible, Genesis 50 verse 20 says, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." And I think this frames it quite nicely, because it takes things that are not good, which are either happening to us or happening to other people, but understanding that even in the midst of bad things, that those things can still be redeemed. And I think the fact that we can, worship as Christians is a testament to that as well, because we had gone sort of a little wayward as a creation, but that was ultimately redeemed in Christ. And so I think if we were to then make it a bit more practical for maybe listeners who are not Christian, not spiritual or religious, I think it's still applicable, because there's something in taking the attention away from yourself and thinking about other people that actually makes the issue suddenly become a little smaller. It can help make an issue feel smaller when you think about others, but at the same time, it can then give you something to channel in the same way that Kris Kristofferson took his struggles and said, "I'm going to use this to make music, and music that will not just be for myself, but music that would bless other people, make other people feel a certain way." I think there's a real value in saying, if something is wrong, how can I be a part of using this experience to help other people navigate it, or help other people solve that problem.
That's good, Leon. Yeah. Talking about vulnerability, I mean, in some of the lines that the guy produced is that, he really struggled with his married life. And because he did so many things, he didn't spend enough time with his family. So I think he had many broken marriages, in his own life. And in the song, he said, "He has tasted good and evil in your bedroom and your bars." Then he said, "And he's traded tomorrow for today, running from his devil lord and reaching for the stars, and losing all he's loved along the way. But this world keeps right on turning for the better and the worse, and all he ever gets is older and around. From the rocking of the cradle to the rolling of the hearse, the going up was worth the coming down."
The going up was worth the coming down.
Yeah.
Well, whatever it is, you can say that he was someone who really lived life to the full. And I think that's the encouragement for all of us. Whatever we want to achieve, I think to just go for it and embrace the messiness, embrace the difficulties that might come along with it, with a mindset that as long as we do the thing, put the action in, put the right systems in, the going up will always be worth the coming down. And so on that note, I think this is a great place to end today's episode. Thank you for suggesting that we do this a little different for the viewers. I hope that you guys enjoyed being on this journey with us as well. For those of you who are Kris Kristofferson fans, I hope that this has been helpful for you in the grieving process. As we talk about what are ways that we can help other people. This is us kind of grieving to serve the community as well. But for those who have not, who are maybe not so familiar with the works and the life of Kris Kristofferson, we encourage you to look him up. Listen to some of the songs.
Absolutely.
I think Here Comes the Rainbow Again is a good place to
with
start.
With a cup of coffee and some candies.
We hope you've enjoyed this special episode. Thank you for listening. If you like these episodes, well, normally the regular kind of tone is we talk more about leadership in the context of business. So if you've not listened to our other episodes, we encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, our Spotify as well. We upload episodes every single week. at Friday at 6 a.m. We also have short form content on our IG and TikTok at The Game of Impossible. We hope you've enjoyed this special episode with us. We've enjoyed having this conversation and shedding a few tears. We'll see you next week. Why me, Lord? What have I ever done to deserve even one of the pleasures I've known? Tell me, Lord, what did I ever do that was worth loving you, or the kindness you've shown? Lord, help me, Jesus, I've wasted it, so help me, Jesus, I know what I am. But now that I know that I needed you, so help me, Jesus, my soul's in your hand. Try me, Lord, if you think there's a way I could try to repay all I've taken from you. Maybe, Lord, I could show someone else what I've been through myself on my way back to you. Lord, help me, Jesus, I've wasted it, so help me, Jesus, I know what I